Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to Rassle Rock with Rick Connor.
What the F was that entire freaking promo about?
Mark Kalbacher.
She's like the James Ellsworth of women.
And Corey Castle.
I look like Paul London and Brian Kendrick mixed.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another special edition of Rassle Rock. We got a very special interview lined up today, but before we do that, I'm Rick Connor.
I'm Corey Castle.
And this is Mark.
Mark is here.
My tent fort. My pillow fort.
This pillow fort.
We're all set up, and I gotta get something cool behind me. Corey has the evolving poster here, you know.
What you said is I think by next week I'm going to have it. Hopefully my next unemployment check comes in. I'm going to buy some PVC pipe. I'm going to build like a little wall.
Yeah.
With a tarp behind it, and then I can finally have backgrounds or something besides just, you know.
I did a recording with Sozio and Jude last night. So that was why I when we go to listen to this interview that you guys did, I wasn't a part of it because whilst you were doing that, I was doing this. Mm. So I know the backdrop thing. Jeff has like a little poster, just like a little poster printed up of the Struggling with Sozio logo. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to get a little projector screen and just put up the thing. So like a little USB projector screen that he's planning on getting, but for now, he just got a little tiny poster.
Whatever works, man. We all started somewhere, right? So, yeah, man. Mark, tell us about this interview we're about to get, because this was your get here.
Yeah, it's a very weird get. I think I mentioned on the actual interview was the lovely lady that I was seeing at the time. We were drunk on my birthday, and she's like, hey, my friend's into wrestling. Would you guys want to, like, have him on and talk to him? And I thought he was just some dude that was a wrestling nerd like ourselves. And then she sent me his email. I looked his name up. And so this worked out really well for us. I contacted the gentleman, and he is the ambassador or spokesperson for the WWN. I forget what the
World Wrestling Network.
World Wrestling Network. I keep calling it Worldwide Wrestling Network. I don't know why. Which covers Evolve, Shine Wrestling, and I kind of lost track of the other.
Is Dragon Gate USA a part of it?
Dragon Gate, yes, is one of the other. Mm-hmm. His name is Trevin Adams.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I said Combat Zone Wrestling is also part of it.
Yep.
So his name is Trevin Adams. He is the ambassador. And we thought we were going to get maybe 15, 20 minutes out of him, and it ended up being an hour-long interview. You can definitely check it out and enjoy the video. And if you want to watch the actual video, you can watch Rick's struggle through an hour trying to pretend he was sober because he did my sister's podcast beforehand.
Yeah, and I was doing another podcast before that where I drink heavily on that podcast and didn't know we would be coming right into the interview afterwards. So,
is that a regular happening with a drunk podcast? Do you do that a lot?
Yeah.
The Something to Do podcast.
Mark does. Yeah,
I used to.
Every podcast with that I do with Mark's sister, I always have at least 3 or 4 drinks.
Oh.
But that's like once a week. I'm not an alcoholic or anything. Everybody calm down.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to the show, and I never can tell. Like,
let's hope that you can't tell with this one, because I tried very hard to not slur any words or anything like that.
Well, for me, it was hysterical because I know Rick, so I know how drunk he was while he was doing it. I just bust my nose open again.
How did you?
I have a scar. I have a scar on my nose, and some of the lifting equipment I have has canvas straps to it, and I hit the scar, and it busts my nose open every now and then. So it looks like I popped a pimple on the tip of my nose, and it just bleeds. Yeah, but this is a really cool interview. You guys want to check it out. He starts with how he fell in love with wrestling, and through ECW, and then New Jersey Pro, and actually how he jumped over to New Jersey Pro into getting connected through wrestling.
Jersey All Pro?
Jersey All Pro, yes. Jersey All Pro. And he goes from Jersey All Pro into becoming now, working with Gabe Sapolsky and his love for
do you think he knows our friend Nick Burke?
He does.
He does. We were talking about him.
I actually.
Cool. I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah.
It's
He
a
actually
real
says.
interview.
I think he says the first show you ever saw, Jersey All Pro, Nick Burke opened the show in a tournament.
Yeah.
Nice.
So definitely check it out. And Rick, I don't know if you have music or whatever to introduce his guest.
We have no music to segue or anything like that, but this is a really cool interview. I hope I don't ruin it for anybody. And we hope you guys enjoy it. So stick around. Trevin Adams, everybody.
All right, so I'm going to rub it in. This is my get. We are bringing in the ambassador of WWN. No more alcohol. I'm putting that over here. We're introducing Trevin Adams, who's the ambassador for the WWN.
The wind is becoming a bit of an issue, but we got Trevin Adams on the line right now. What's going on, Trevin? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? And I apologize. Hopefully, Florida weather doesn't keep picking up. Of course, now that we're starting, here's a wind and a breeze, right? And we don't normally have this thing called a breeze in Florida that's not 1,000 degrees. It's actually a pleasant day right now. But indeed, so Trevin Adams here, ambassador of the World Wrestling Network. Appreciate you guys having me on. So what we were doing before we officially said, hey, why don't we start, is we were just going down random memory lane, talking about various promotions in Philadelphia. And Rick was talking a bit about his history, and I said, hey, why don't we just kick it off, because you'll probably get a kick out of the fact that I grew up in the Philly area as well, about a mile outside the city in Havertown. And, so I became aware of things like ECW back 95-ish, right? And probably the only time I ever had my parents say no to something. They used to let me do whatever the hell I wanted. But I was in, early high school about at that time. And they said, no, bad area, you can't go there, etc. And it was awesome, right? Like I was like, oh, I want to go so bad. And then by the time I, started college in around 99, arena was still selling out, but I wasn't going to stand with 1,000 people and 1,000 degrees for what was being presented. And I mean that in the most polite way. It wasn't 95, 96 ECW anymore, right? However, ECW folds, a little company called Jersey All Pro Wrestling shows up, right? And they started running the arena actually before Combat Zone did. So my first indie shows were Jersey All Pro Wrestling back in 01. And I got to the point where I even got to know Fat Frank, some of the other guys. And had it not become, they didn't do well in Philly and moved back just to do in North Jersey, I probably would have started doing stuff with those guys back then. But I was going to school, had an unreliable car, wasn't going to drive to Bayonne regularly to do like trainee stuff with them. But so I almost kind of jumped in then, as opposed to 2013 when I got involved with WWN. But yeah, so I kid you not. So I guess you could stereotype me as a Jersey All Pro guy if I was going to stereotype you as a CZW guy, sir. And But my what do they call it? Olive leaf, right? Or olive branch to you would be, I did book Drew Gulak back in the day when he was the champion, when he was doing I'm like the real wrestling champion of CZW. At the point in Full Impact Pro, we had Trent Beretta was our champion and rarely available. So we actually had Drew. I was actually sending some of this to Mark via a common or a mutual friend. We actually had Drew versus Timothy Thatcher when no one not only knew who Tim was, but that type of style of match hadn't really been done. And this is March 2014. And, by that fall, here we go with what became Evolved style for the next couple of years. So between that and the fact that, how about this one, Drew Gulak versus Roderick Strong, for first time ever, they actually wrestled one-on-one same weekend. Hell of a match. And actually, I had sent Mark a link again via a friend, and I can get it to you as well, of a very fun, like, press, kind of fake press moment the night before. I had Rob Naylor, if you know Robbie, host it. And, they got a little personal. It was really cool. And it's even more cool to look at where those guys are now, to say the least, right? And if you guys were tracking, so for those who aren't familiar, World Wrestling Network, one of our brands is called Evolve Wrestling, in addition to Full Impact Pro that I just mentioned. And, right there in Philly back in July, you may recall we had a little tiny show at the ECW Arena that just happens to be the first show not owned by WWE to be aired live on the network. A very interesting moment. And as somebody who got to ring announce while Drew Gulak was in the ring as Cruiserweight Champion, the nerd in me popped for it. I was like, wow, not only is this full circle, not only is he an awesome dude, but to then see what he got to do with, Daniel Bryan and so forth at WrestleMania, I've just been tickled pink. So how about that for a random introduction?
I think we all have like weird ways where we got tied back into wrestling.
Exactly.
Mine was years ago, and I told Rick this story. I walked in a bar one night, which was Deco. It wasn't even called Z-Bar back then in Philadelphia. And there was this scraggly dude with a beat-up motorcycle jacket and like 3 strippers wrapped around him drinking there.
Okay.
And he went by the name Raven.
I was wondering if that's who it was going to be. That's amazing.
And I turned around and told my buddy, I was like, that's the ECW world champion over there. And he's like, who? I was like, he had no idea. He just started getting into the NWO. He knew nothing about wrestling. I was like, that's Raven. And he went over and tried to talk to Raven, and Raven wouldn't even admit it was him. And every time he's like, I'm sorry, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. And he looked at me, and he's like, I hope it's a compliment. And I looked at him, I was like, yeah, it's a compliment. He winked at me. And then the weird thing is, over the years, I started seeing him more and more often in like after-hours bars, and I became friends with Raven drinking, and that's what really got me tied back into wrestling. Because besides that, I only watched Bret Hart and nothing else because wrestling was so bad back then. And then it was Raven that got me into watching wrestling again, and I got into Jericho and all the other guys. And it's just so funny how that Philly scene was always so small.
No, but you just called it. That was that golden era of ECW I was referring to, right? And clearly the mistake you made was if you had went up to him and just said, hey, look, there's Johnny Polo, then he would have totally recognized and be like, oh, yeah, that's me. That's me. I managed the not the Mounties, but the Quebecers.
Quebecers, yeah, not the Mounties. That's
what I said. That's why I said not the Mounties, the Quebecers. but Mark, you're spot on. And, here's the thing at the end of the day, right? And another thing I was mentioning to these guys, not to reveal the exact time we are recording, but, so one of the things we were talking about before official air was, hey, what are you doing right now during the apocalypse? And, somebody affiliated with a wrestling company, how in the blue hell are you making any money? And the answer is, well, not really, not a lot. But like everybody, we have a subscription service called Club WWN in our case. It's got the entire Evolve Wrestling, FIP Wrestling, Shine Wrestling, American Combat Wrestling, other promotions. You got them video on demand. You got them live when, God willing, we're all live again. But we also have Dragon Gate USA. And airing right now is actually the first ever Dragon Gate USA show, which came from Philadelphia, by the way, back in July 2009. That was actually part of the significance of the network special, was we called it the 10th anniversary. And it was really the 10th anniversary of Dragon Gate, but we glommed on Evolve, which really started a year later, but made the argument, look, they're like kissing cousins. I mean, we'll just call it everybody's birthday, right? Yeah. But bottom line is, well, that show is airing right now on YouTube and our Facebook for free as kind of a plug of, hey, you want to see really awesome wrestling, you want to see where guys were that you're probably going to be surprised when you see who's on the show, but moreover, as the plug for Club WWN. And by the way, we're going to do this every Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern.
Really? I guess what you're talking about. I stay in Florida very often, so I know the weather is out there. When I was just saying with what happened with WWE, with all the firings and the furloughs, everything going on, there's a lot of people that are actually infuriated with WWE, and now they can find an alternative. And the cool thing, like I said about WWN, is a lot of the guys that are in NXT and a lot of the actually bigger names in WWE right now are all former Evolve and Dragon Gate guys. So it's kind of good to go to what you guys are as a network to see the next upcoming guys.
Yeah, sorry, I just gave Vince your address. He's on the way, if you guys couldn't hear in the background there. But no, kidding aside, so it's a crappy time, right? And I'm not going to pick on any company that's having to do what they're having to do. But if you focus on the talent, and like you just said, and people who enjoy professional wrestling to begin with, obviously any talent that loses the opportunity to do what they do at the level that they were trying to do it at, that sucks, right? Yeah. Of course, as they always say, one door closes, another door opens. So my hunch is there's going to be a lot of folks that not only land on their feet, but land on their feet well. And hopefully when they do, it turns into something that is exciting for all of us, right? There's nothing more mind-blowing to me is, not just us, but like Progress Wrestling in the UK, the guys they've been able to borrow from NXT and NXT UK to put into a different setting. And, regardless of whether or not there's, WWE let them borrow these people, you're getting to see guys that, again, are in a setting. And one of the things we use as a moniker in Evolve, and in fact, other thing we've been doing of releasing a bunch of full shows, which are on our YouTube, was only in Evolve matches, right? And that concept of, about a year ago, we had Velveteen Dream versus Orange Cassidy. How the hell is that ever going to happen? Like, seriously, it's never. In fact, now it's really never going to happen. But not for a damn long time.
Rick doesn't get Orange Cassidy. We've been beating him up for months over this.
I just don't get the gimmick. It's other people love it, and that's fantastic. It's not for me.
Hey, it's definitely different strokes for different folks, right? But obviously what the point I was going is, hey, I can't believe that happened. You know what I mean? Like those kind of situations. Hell, we did before anybody would ever imagine that Walter would actually sign with WWE. We actually had Adam Cole defend the then North American Championship that he had. This was a couple years ago, and it was against Walter. And first off, it was crazy that here's this title defense outside of the usual umbrella, right? But then the fact it got to happen. And I've got news for everybody, including that July show that I mentioned, that small little WWE Network show. There weren't 700 WWE producers running around. It was us. I mean, actually, it's almost criminal we pulled it off because we are so mom and pop, you couldn't imagine. So it was like a handful of us. They sent some audio dudes and a satellite truck. Don't get me wrong, not complaining. I mean, they were great and all, but, it was like, holy crap, we're doing this. And, by the way, we're doing it ourselves. And even with their talent, we're getting to do stuff. And I bring it up because, again, back to the point of guys that are unfortunately finding themselves without jobs right now, those opportunities to have those kind of, you've never been able to see these matches, let alone bring what they've learned. And I'll tell you right now, just being able to get close to, we were talking about Tommaso Ciampa earlier, right? Being able to have Tommaso's been at our last, God, is it going on a year now? He's been producing at multiple Evolve shows. The dude has just soaked up the Performance Center. And then to watch him like a sponge, you squeeze it a little bit, and just the drops coming out on us is blowing our minds, let alone imagine what those guys have learned who were there full time. They're about to bring it out to everywhere, right? So it's a proliferation of knowledge. To me, that actually really excites me, especially once again, when all these guys land on their feet.
They will. I'm kind of in the same boat, being in the bar business, where like you're just basically, it was a bad time and people aren't going to make money and everybody's got to do what they can to keep their business going. They will land on their feet. It's just going to take time, and it's a little unnerving in the beginning, and then you kind of figure out your groove until like those job opportunities do show up. I don't know about you, Rick. You're still working, right?
No. I literally have nothing going on except the videos I'm uploading to YouTube. There's a lot of talk right now on the indies of who's running and who's not. Trevin, is there anyone on the under the WWN umbrella that is still running currently?
Not in our crew. We had looked at some options. There's a venue that we have a very close relationship with in a city called Port Richey, Florida, which is north of Tampa. And, it's called the Gulfview Event Center. And we'd actually looked at the option of could we pull off doing some stuff there, and especially with the number of talents that just live locally, just to, give them an opportunity, to literally get out there. You can't imagine how many of these guys want to freaking wrestle, right? They're all going nuts. And, between just some of the headaches, of course, of what is and isn't considered essential, and I won't take the bait on that one. I'll leave that to you guys, right? But so what is and isn't essential, but also, again, between just what you can keep open, what can actually work in an empty arena type setting, because of the whole situation of how many gatherings you can have, it just hasn't been feasible for us. Kudos to everybody who's tried to do it and pulled it off, and. I know some folks had really good ideas and wanted to do it and got themselves just unfortunately stopped by the current situation as well.
It's a weird one, man. I don't even know how to even talk about
it. It's really, really rough. Like there's a lot of people on the independent circuit that try to make a living with wrestling and are really, really struggling. A lot of promoters especially that rely on that extra whatever they're making a month with their independent company, not to mention the wrestlers that are trying to make a living off the independent circuit, which is incredibly difficult, that are really, really having a hard time now. And the added craziness that this is with the with the WWE releases. It's insane that they have absolutely nowhere to go. There's pretty much only those two shows in town. There's WWE and AEW. With the absence of the WWE, it's a really, really hard time.
No, and that's true. And like you guys mentioned, I mean, this isn't just us. I mean, this is a lot of aspects of show business, live events. Think of all the people that own these venues that usually would host live events. Anybody who's in your proverbial, starving artist, indie rock band, let alone, like you said, Mark, just the damn bartending and not being able to even do that. I mean, it's
not only that, I work for Live Nation. So I also
so you really get.
Yeah. So we're talking about there's rumors that they may not have live events until the end of 2020. They're so scared about doing large events. So you're looking at the music industry, sports, pro wrestling, you name it. Then what? We're all going to do it with crowds. How are you going to do that? I mean, Live Nation is probably working on some kind of workaround right now about throwing probably concerts you can pay for. But wrestling, not having that fan interaction is really rough.
Well, no, it's the truth, and I mean, everybody. I think everybody already knew that the fans were one of the most key elements, to say the least, when it comes to the sport and presentation of professional wrestling. But I'm sure you remember the old WWE commercial that there's no us without you, and they had Daniel Bryan come out doing the yeses, and everybody was all he comes out, there's no fans, and it's crazy we're living that, right? But yeah, that would be horrible for a lot of industries if the answer really was, no live events for the rest of the calendar year. I can't even picture another 8 months of what we're doing right now. Literally, could not picture.
I can't picture another 8 days. I'm going insane. I'm making orangecello right now, and I'm making limoncello in 2 days.
Well, that I definitely want to join you on, right? That I'm looking forward to the weekend to, wake up and say, hey, where am I? Except I'll be home, but not sure what room I'm in. But no, kidding aside, again, it's one of those things. It's a crappy situation. However, back to the talent, and again, this is, I think a lot of people have already done a great job to the extent that they can, because I also understand a lot of people are not able to still work, and a lot of people are, literally going, how do I pay my bills? Let alone how do I support things I like? But, for those who can, so many talents have, put out there, like you guys were talking about before air, hey, or maybe you said it afterwards, either way, T-shirts and, things they're doing. And, we've been trying to get some stuff cooking actually with some live streams that as soon as I do, I'll get you guys links. I'm hoping to pull this off. I've had a bit of a headache with, being able to monetize these appropriately, because if I'm going to do something with talent, I want the talent to actually make money. You know what I mean? As much as it's fun to sit there and be like, hey, let's watch a show together for an hour and stream it. That's one thing. But how about if you guys can actually make a paycheck on this? Those are things that, and I know we're not original on that. A lot of people are trying to do stuff like that. And, hopefully in some ways it, helps catch some of these guys, not just a couple bucks, but also there's some seriously big personalities in pro wrestling. And that's an argument I've made to quite a few people. I've tried to push the concept on, and, more of those corporate type jobs that you got to sell them on, hey, here's why you should promote this thing for us. Again, the personalities are usually what get people excited and interested in wrestling, especially people who don't understand wrestling. And if we live in a world, and again, I'm about to show my age, but if we live in a world where people get paid buku dollars to stream freaking video games, right? And usually I'm not impressed by these personalities, and you can take that soundbite and use it against me. I'm okay with that, right? I mean, these guys, seriously, I'm like, you guys have no charisma and you're pretty boring. And, and half of your thing is, hey, dude, yeah, thanks for coming on, whatever your name is, 567. Thanks for the bits, man. Cool. Okay, back to clickety click. I think the wrestlers would just trump these guys and be a hell of a lot more interesting.
That's my entire podcast career right there.
Yeah, but Rick, you're already more interesting than most of the streamers I've ever watched that do video game stuff. Again, showing my age, I get it. There's a younger demographic that perhaps likes that, but like I said, not impressed.
Rick has to be quiet. Rick has to be quiet today in the environment he's in. He's got other people in the house. Usually Vince McMahon's voice or doing somebody else.
Yeah, usually I'm doing a Steve Austin impression or something like that. Right now I'm living with someone who works in the medical industry, so I have to be quiet while there. they're sleeping. They have to get up early.
Holy crap. Yeah, and work some long hours, right? So those are the real heroes, and I know it sounds cliche, but I've got quite a few friends that live in that world, and it's just insane right now.
Yeah. A friend of mine has 150 people in her unit with COVID right now. So it's real, it's scary. And they're sticking it out, man. There's some tough people.
Well, that's it, and especially the situation in New York. As somebody who's run just countless shows, worked with countless talents from that geography. I mean, legitimately, and this isn't one of those oh, you just say every place is your home and every audience is great and whatever. There's a venue in Queens called The Boo, right? And we've run so many Evolve shows out of Queens, and there's just that audience. If I could have bottled them and brought them to the network special, that's what I would have wanted to do. I mean, these guys are just so rabid, awesome fans, great people. You get to know them, and you get to know a lot of the talents, once again, that are there, even if they're not working our show, the ones that are helping on the crew and all that stuff. And then when you start to see that some of these guys actually, no kidding, like you were just saying, Mark, not only had it, but have family members who had it, have family members who have died, that hits you at home pretty quick.
Okay. Question, do you want to keep talking, Trevin? To take a quick, we have like a timer on here, and then we would just have to send you another link real quick and do this.
Yeah, no, I'm in a rush. If you guys are happy, I'm happy.
You want to keep going, Rick?
Yeah, the thing with Zoom is if you're not paying for premium, then they put like a 40-minute time limit on you, so you have to kind of bail out and then come back in. So if you're cool with it, we'd like to to come back with another one.
Absolutely. Maybe by then I'll be out of the damn wind. Sorry about this.
There he goes.
Hey, am I actually here?
Hey, you're there, sir.
Okay.
I'm like the old guy that's like, how do I use Zoom?
Old guy, when did you say you caught? Wait, how many years younger are you to me? I'm always the elder statesman in all this. So,
well, depending on when you were hanging out with Raven, if you were legitimately drinking at that bar, you've got me beat, sir.
Let's see. I joined the military in '97. When I got out of AIT, it was the end of '97. I met him in '97, '98, right after he left WCW. When he did the walkout on WCW. So I think it was 98, 99.
So I think you've got me by about 3 years.
Yeah, I met him.
I'm a 99 graduate guy.
Yeah, it was a really weird thing, man. Like I said, and it was one of those like weird encounters. And then next thing I know, every time I went to a bar and he was there, I had to drink with him.
Who won those fights? As in who drank the most?
That guy's a machine, and I didn't drink nearly as much as I do now. And funny thing is, like, I ran into him. I'd have to look up the year. That was the year my sister and I met Steve Austin. Rick got the picture, and he was there signing autographs and didn't remember who I was at all.
That sounds like Raven.
So do you, Trevin, do you actually get starstruck at any of these guys you get to work with or talk to or anything like that?
Sometimes. I mean, it's one of those, usually when you're doing business and you're so in the thick of things, you don't have time to think about it. And then you go back and be like, wait a minute, who was just here? Like we've had a couple times to, have conversations with, because the joke is I live around the corner from the damn Performance Center and Full Sail, right? And so a couple times we've been over there just for certain tapings and, had a few short conversations with like guys like Triple H. And then when we're done, I'm like, oh, I have this action figure. That's weird, but like at the time you're thinking business, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I can comment to that because I've worked in Chikara with Cesaro. Back in the day, he was Claudio Castagnoli, and I've gone to autograph signings where I got to meet him again. I'm like, oh my God, I'm meeting Cesaro. And he's like, yeah, we rode together to Chikara shows, you a-hole. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot.
But that wasn't Cesaro. That was Claudio. This is Cesaro.
This is Cesaro, man. It's completely different. He had his hair then.
Oh. Wow.
Back then. No, I mean, he shaved it. It's consensual. It's not like he went bald.
Okay. I was wondering. I mean, I have a picture with the Rock there. So.
Oh, yeah. He had a full head of hair back then.
Man, you guys are shooting on everybody. I love it.
Not a shoot.
Well, you were joking about the police earlier. We had an interview with Lenny Poffo on here. What's it going on? 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
And, an ambulance rode up in the background. He used that as the excuse to get off the line with us.
Now that is a true worker.
He was not happy at all. He was our old host, one of our old partners, kept asking him questions about Macho Man, which he really does not like answering, and he kind of got a little angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey guys, one topic we can't touch. Let's leave Randy alone. Okay, cool. Yeah, so tell me about when Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth and that thing where he was locking her in rooms.
Well, you ever meet that guy or that girl that like their whole career is tied to someone else and the other person was bigger, and then you meet them and you forget their entire career as soon as you meet them? That's what happened to us.
I'm cracking up over here. Yeah, I love it.
Honestly, that entire conversation was all about Macho Man and Mr. Perfect and Hulk Hogan and everything else except him.
Yeah, it was not
Hey,
good.
do you remember when Perfect took the belt at Saturday Night's Main Event and just broke it? That was like unheard of, right? And he's like, I was there too. No, remember Mr. Perfect was there with the belt. It was so cool.
Well, that's all our one partner kept asking me. Just want to know questions about Macho Man's rap album. And it just
So do you do backing vocals on Be a Man? I'm just trying to figure this out. No, but hey, you know, I make these jokes and I really do make them tongue in cheek, because not only was that dude talented, but that same era. Do you guys remember the Genius versus Hulk Hogan from Saturday Night Main Event? I mean, that was a match ahead of its time. It was so.
No, I remember him being that good, and I just forgot. Like, for some reason, I just forgot his entire career as soon as I got on the phone.
It's the limoncello, I understand.
Oh, yeah, it's the old Italian liqueurs I make over here.
Oh man,
I was gonna say, I had questions.
Oh, you're fine. No, hey, so for real, let me throw one more thing at you, right? And not just sound like it's Shillity McShill show. Because again, I'll even try to make it bigger than just the WWN side, because yeah, I get it. I plug Club WWN, of course. It's basically the only thing we have these days that, you know, might bring any flavor of income. But that's serious again. Between supporting the talents, or if you have your favorite promotions, believe it or not, a lot of them still sell Blu-rays, or as mentioned, there's so many different places where people are uploading shows, and, you know, whether it's the pivot share model where based on the fact that you actually watch it, turns into somebody actually making money. In other words, my show's on pivot share, nobody watched it. Well, guess what? You know, and so many other models. I mean, this is that time again. If you can afford it, support it, and if you can't, you know, when we're all back on our feet, at least, you know, hopefully folks have appreciated what so many of us have tried to put out there as more just the free content that is both hopefully a distraction, but also a chance to keep you to remember us, so that again, when the good times come again, you know, can you imagine the first shows? I mean, people are going to be just like exploding. Just everything's going to be exciting. Everybody's going to pop for everything, and the talent is probably going to like go balls to the wall from the second the matches start.
I'm terrified because for me, like, as soon as we start opening the bars again, the level of drunk that these people are going to get is going to blow Rick out of the water right now.
am I going off that drunk? I've only had 6 or 7. No, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great.
It's going to be fun. That atmosphere is going to be really fun because people are going to lose their minds just to have you start to appreciate stuff again, like after it's been taken away for so long. And I think a lot of the bitter wrestling fans might turn the page once they can actually see wrestling live again.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a Raw after Mania type of crowd.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And that's the thing is, I think, you know, and I mean this in the nicest way. You know, I think we all become kind of jaded. You know, you've seen it all. You know, especially folks who go to a lot of shows or watch a lot of shows or so forth. And you know, again, there's just that moment where you're like, wait a minute, this can be fun. Like I'll be honest, if WrestleMania week had happened as planned, I would have probably been sleeping during WrestleMania. Actually, that's a lie. I would have been setting up a ring because we had Kaiju Big Battle as soon as it ended. But last couple of years if we didn't have something as a post-show, that was when I finally got some damn sleep, because I'd have 3 to 4 days of nonstop shows that we didn't get any rest, right? And then I'd catch it kind of post-mortem. And this year I ended up actually watching with a couple old friends that, it was kind of like, oh, wait, it can be fun to just sit down and appreciate what you're seeing. And because I hadn't gotten to watch something like a Mania Live for so long, obviously this was a really different one, but still, it was kind of fun. It was like forget what you're doing for a minute. And I won't lie that, Rick, maybe I was having some 90-minute IPAs as well, but gosh darn it was a good time.
You drinking Dogfish Head all the way down there? They actually bring that
damn straight. You can get it. It's the most macro micro brew ever, right? Thank God it's down here.
I was gonna say, you got Cigar City down there. They're an excellent brewery.
Oh, they're great stuff. I have that in my fridge as well.
I was gonna say, you got a little highlight hidden in the fridge.
Dude, legit. I totally have. I'll send you a picture later.
If you ever want to talk, we got once I get my podcast back together, we start talking drinking again.
That sounds beautiful. Well, and for real too, I'd love to join you guys sometime when I have real things are going on and I have exciting shows to try to push on you and be bragging about, hey, guess who's going to be here, that kind of stuff.
Just to give a small background on how we even got to talk. I was seeing someone that Trevin's friends with. It was my birthday and both of us were pretty drunk, and in a passing comment she mentioned that she was friends with someone that was in wrestling and sent me a bunch of links, but I was so blacked out drunk because it was my birthday and I'm trapped in the house. You can't go anywhere. And then I went back through the text and found your name, and luckily you actually responded with me, which I'm very happy you did, because I would love you to come back on here and talk independent wrestling with us, because we definitely need someone to do that more on the show. We have Corey, but Corey's been doing a lot of acting projects and stuff like that instead of wrestling. So,
well, yeah, and similarly, I'd be happy, if you ever want to talk to some of our guys. A lot of them are cool, especially again, we usually look at it as the chance. We line them up. Yeah, sure, they're going to plug the next Evolve or whatever, but then they get to plug all their other projects, which is always good stuff, right? So my hunch is they would appreciate the fact that you guys are not only street cred, but have various experiences when it comes to our beloved sport.
Oh yeah, we Rick has a vast group of curmudgeons that used to be in the business that also pop on here and host some of the shows with us. Nick Burke, who went by Nicky Benz.
Yeah, no, I remember Nick Burke. Hell yeah.
Nick's a very good friend of ours.
So you tell Nick Burke he was I want to say it was him, because that first Jersey All Pro show I went to, it was Summer 01. In that show they had low-key win the cruiserweight gimmick in the opener and then win the heavyweight gimmick in the main. And so he actually beat Homicide in the main. And I feel like it was Nick Burke in that opener. I got to go back and find it.
I think it was.
You can find video of that and get it for us, so we can. We love showing old video of Nick, and I'm still trying.
Dude, I bet you money I got it on tape. In the problem is I have a bazillion tapes. I used to buy everything. You remember all the tape trader days and all that stuff? I've got volumes and volumes, but I will dig through, and I bet you money I have that show someplace.
Good old Rob Feinstein.
Yeah, I was about to say, the old RF video, I think Feinstein owes most of his fortune to me, because I think I bought every single tape he ever put out.
Yeah, hey, there's something to be said for, especially geographically, when you got a monopoly, and when you're seeing these names that you're like, wait, these interviews? Are you kidding me? Those blew my mind at the time. You've never seen anything like that.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, if it wasn't for that tape trading, I wouldn't be into wrestling like I am now. I bought a tape. The guy Doug Gentry, who passed years ago.
Yeah, no, I do Doug. Yep.
Doug was one of the guys who used to sell the tapes at the cart, and he turned around and he's like, "Dude, just watch this VHS." And it's kind of blasphemous to say now, but it was the best of Chris Benoit, and I saw Chris Benoit in Japan. And that was it.
All the Pegasus Kid stuff, right?
Oh yeah, and the Super J Cup with Chris Jericho, and then I ran back and got Chris Jericho's all his matches in Japan, and then then I met Raven, and then I ran back and bought his tape. And one of the craziest stories ever was I went to say hi to Doug one day, and he was walking around Franklin Mills Mall with super crazy and Tajiri the night they wrestled the three-way dance with little Guido.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I miss Doug. He was a good kid, man. He was good friends with my brother.
No, I don't think there's anybody on the planet like, you mentioned Rob, obviously the things that can be said. I'll leave those alone, right? But I don't think there's a human being on the planet that has anything bad to say about Doug.
Well, that's what one of Rick's gimmicks was Rick was a kind of a make fun of Rob Feinstein gimmick.
Yeah, I was that a-hole in CZW making fun of Feinstein.
I got to see some tape of that.
Oh, no, you don't. That's fine.
Hey.
That's Feather Boa and Daisy Duke wearing stuff that I'd rather keep buried.
Oh, I'm really going to find that.
Oh, no.
Trevin, if you can find clips of this and then we can show the video and comment on this.
Hey, you've already given me quite a few nuggets here, and I know people who know people, so give me some time.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Oh, dear Lord. Okay, so let's change topics quickly, and let's go to the Evolve Center, because there's been a lot of changes this past year with Evolve on the WWE Network. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because that's been a huge that has to have been a huge uprising for Evolve. Like, what changes have been taking place since then?
So the cool thing with that, and I brought it up earlier, but the point of like I said, I mean, we say what you will, and I'm not complaining when I say this, the fact that we can get WWE to lend us talent. I get not everybody gets to do that, but we're still truly an independent organization, and having the opportunity to be on the WWE Network, and I meant what I said earlier. I mean, there was very limited WWE involvement in that, and that in and of itself is crazy, right? If you think about it, and that says a lot about their trust to us. But regardless, obviously that was a lot of eyes, and even if those eyes were eyes then, and we'll put up some clips, and folks will be, when are you on the network again? And then I respond with the, hey, Club WWN, $9.99 a month. I know it's not as much as what the WWE Network gives you, but regardless, it was still really cool, and what meant a lot to me was the number of guys and gals that have worked hard, that either were represented that night or it was thanks to their contributions, and they've been off to, they've now had other adventures, other places, the Ring of Honors, the New Japans, the AEWs, the whatever, and of course WWE and NXT. We got that opportunity, and that in and of itself was just, it was crazy, and also being able to see, there's one guy in particular that I still would love to see, and I can't believe nobody snatched yet. AR Fox. And if you guys are familiar with AR Fox, he is just phenomenal. Phenomenal. Google the crap out of him.
Familiar, but I can't.
You will love his work, and for Rick, and he still does the CZ dub, but he has trained so many of our young guys that are coming up now too. He's got a school in Atlanta, Georgia called WWA 4, and Fox is just amazing. I mean, I've known Fox both from when I was a fan, in the early, whatever, we call them 2010s, when I first started seeing him when he was really young to, obviously working with him. And again, if you watch, if there's the closest thing I could describe him to would be like guys that are the level of a Pac or a Ricochet when it comes to the insane athletic things they can do, but he makes it his own. And just like those two do, right? They're very special in what they can do in the ring, as well as can work with anybody. And that's what's cool to me. And so getting to watch AR Fox on the WWE Network, just a huge pop, from the perspective of, getting to be there. And that night too, they won, he and one of his young trainees, a guy named Leon Ruff, won the tag titles, and, being able to see that happen and know where it happened. I mean, that was just cool as hell. Let alone actually part of that before the match went on was, those of you who know Eddie Kingston, he had a live mic on the WWE Network, and by the grace of God, we're still in the air, right? That was a hell of a moment too, because Kingston's amazing, and and again, for anybody who is not familiar, I know you two know him, but for anybody who's not familiar in Eddie Kingston, if you want to talk about the most authentic promo still in the business today, I mean, this is the guy that.
Rick, you know Eddie, right?
I love Eddie Kingston, man. That was my hero when I was in Chikara. Oh my God, because he was a guy that was in Chikara that was not a luchador, and him and Eric Cannon were my two favorites because they went out and did a strong style and a submission style that were so far apart from the Mike Quackenbush school of this is how it has to be, if that makes any sense. Kingston was just he just had that thug attitude, but if you knew him as a person, you realize he was so not that guy. So like, Feinberg, give me a cigarette, dog. Like that was his catchphrase for me in the background and backstage. So I 100% love Eddie Kingston.
No, and again, like you said, Eddie, and at that time too. So Cannon's another cool guy, but at that time they were, when the whole thing went on with Chikara and Ring of Honor, Eddie was the guy. I want to say it was 17, right? That he ended up working. They did like a pay-per-view thing, if I remember correctly, right? I'm not confusing who wrestled whom. And that was what what was it? Oh God. Now, you're old when you're like, what year was that? Maybe 2011, something like that.
Something like that. You brought up Mr. Perfect breaking the belt. I forgot that.
Really? That's how they got rid of the old belt.
I forgot that. That's how long ago that was.
That's how they brought in the Winged Eagle belt that everybody loves.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I'm also a big fan of the Winged Eagle belt, but of course it went there was one non-pay-per-view show a quarter and like one pay-per-view if you're lucky a quarter. It's a lot easier to remember the shows than when there's 700,000 things that have happened. And I'm not complaining when I say it. It's just you can obviously remember certain things a lot more vividly when you don't have anything else to compare it to.
Yeah, if you're a wrestling geek at this time, it's great because there's so much to see, but like I can't absorb any of it in memory anymore because of how much is going on. It's too much. No, you're spot on. Even the there's still some of the more recent Evolves that I can tell you. Oh yeah, that was Evolve 125. It was last year's WrestleMania weekend. It was cool. Kyle O'Reilly versus Austin Theory in the main event. Hell of a show. Like that one I remember the number obviously, and then 131 was the network special. But I used to be able to tell you by the show, like, oh yeah, this is where it was, this, and then I'm working the shows, right? Let alone, like we talked about Full Impact Pro earlier. Like I'm involved in booking the damn shows, and I'm like, what do we do when? Like obviously I need to drop those March shows because I remember them vividly. But if you just go, hey, tell me about, whatever, July 2018, what'd you guys do on that weekend? And I'd be like, where's the cage match on it? And then as soon as I read it, I'll be like, oh, yeah, this is what happened. But, man, So you actually book the shows also?
I'm the proverbial cook in the kitchen, but not – Evolve is absolutely Gabe Sapolsky. So, Evolve, I'm involved in production. I already mentioned, some of the announcing and so forth. But FIP, American Combat Wrestling, I do get the opportunity to help with some of that stuff. Shine Wrestling, I'm more the production guy. But yeah, I know it's cool getting to be involved in numerous aspects, but one thing I'd remind folks is, and again, I think Rick will back me up on this, for the cool sounding things, there's a lot of, oh shit, the ring's not here yet. We got to get it set up. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're in a suit, get the damn thing up. Right. Hey, chairs got to get done. And, we do a lot of grunt work and unfun things, and I'm not complaining when I say it, but I meant when I said we're mom and pop earlier, you're driving in a van, squished with 18 people, and time to unload. And, we do a lot of that. But on the side, we also get to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, believe me, being in the Live Nation, there's a lot of ugly stuff to getting it set up and ready to go. And, most people only see running up to the stage and then the band performing, and then they leave and buy a T-shirt. They don't really see what it takes to get all that up and running.
Absolutely. And again, I don't say that to complain. It's more I've had quite a few folks come up to me, they're like, oh dude, like, it sounds like you get to do some cool things. How did you get involved in this? And then I start to go, well, here's step one. If you show up to the building and you're there for setup and stay all the way through the end, by the way, if you're anyone on the planet, indie wrestler, whoever who's come in and said, hey, I'm here to help, stay to the gosh darn end. I mean, that is like, I can't tell you how many people are like, well, I helped out and, you stopped looking for a second. I've run away, right? And then we noticed, trust me. But no, but the point is, again, that's really step one. I mean, if you're there helping, I'm going to be like, wait a minute, Mark, are you talented? Tell me a little more about what you actually do. But in the meantime, I need hands on deck, and you come up to me and say, hey, I'm a ring announcer. I'm like, that's great. Can you set up the damn building, please? And then we'll talk about other things later.
No, usually it's just drinking heavily.
Hey, you know what? If you don't hurt anybody else and you get my chair set up and taken down, I'm a fan.
I think they should do that anyway. It gives you more of a level of appreciation of what you're doing anyway. It's like building everything from the ground up, setting the chairs up, setting all that. I think it really when you go into that ring and wrestle and those people are there, I think it gives you more of an appreciation and more like you did something. I don't know. For me, because I'm a workaholic, so that stuff appeals to me.
Well, no, and obviously, yes. So it sounds like you're a hardworking dude. So yes, in some ways it is kind of cool to be like, ooh, like I joked about the cooks in the kitchen. You're like, hey man, I actually, slaughtered the beast outside, helped cook the damn thing, made sure he ate it, cleaned it up, and man, I feel accomplished. But even then, let's say that's not your dream and you want to be Guy Fieri or he's a cook, right? I don't know anybody, but you get where I'm going. The bottom line is it's the proverbial pay the dues. And, then by the time you are in a WWE and you're showing up in literally a stadium for a WrestleMania, you really appreciate the army it took to set it up. And you're sure it's all going to be a hell of a lot more, polite as well to these kind of folks instead of coming in and, if you have your butt wiped from day one, you're going to be blown away the day you have to wipe your own butt.
Yep.
And if you're looking to get into the wrestling business and it's not absolutely awesome for you to watch the show that you helped set that ring up for, like to look at a ring and be like, hey, yeah, you see that show that you just watched? I helped build that ring. Like, that's awesome. If you're that much of a wrestling fan, like, that's fantastic. And if it's not fantastic for you, then you should not be in this business.
No, you're spot on, right? And I know it's not everybody gets to see it, but even NXT, and especially the weeks they do here in Florida, they're the ring crew, right? And it don't matter who you are, by the way, you're the ring crew, right? And that's one of those things too that I think is humbling and I mean it in a polite way, that certain folks that have been in the sport for so long are, hey, it's in some ways, wow, I'm helping do this, but by the same token, not only does it kind of remind you certain things, but also I think it's motivating to the guys that have come in and never worked, say, indies, or, even if they weren't on too long before they got snatched or whatever, it kind of shows them it's the camaraderie. Mark, you were talking about the military earlier. Yeah. I'd argue in a lot of ways it's kind of like the NCOs working together, and you got the senior NCOs teaching the more junior folks what to do.
No, it's a lot like that. The weird thing is I tend to work in businesses where it has that mentality, or I'm kind of miserable in it. Like I need that whole camaraderie. Like like I said, even with just bartending in venues, we're a squad. If we don't work as hard as possible because we split the money across the board, then you're going to bring everybody down. You're not going to make as much money. So we're a team from top to bottom to make sure everybody makes money. So, and you always look out and you cover for people and you help it, because everybody has bad days too. So we all help each other out. And to not be like that, I can't handle working in businesses like that.
No, spot on, my friend. This is fun. I like you. I like you guys have fun perspectives on things. It's always nice to talk to folks who have lived life, and I mean that in a very complimentary way. I think there's a lot of folks who have not.
Yeah, well, right now nobody's living life.
Yeah, we're living different lives, that's for sure.
But at least you get to walk around lovely Florida, and we're sitting up here and it's 30-something degrees today. Now that there's nobody outside driving cars, they're in New York.
Oh wow, yeah, no, so I obviously growing up there and pretty much living in the general area until my late 20s. I mean, I still like it cold, and I have no problem coming up, and folks will be like, "Oh man, is your blood thinned out?" And it hasn't yet. And actually, today really is legitimately coolish for Florida wise, but it's been hot as heck. I've cursed multiple times. I don't know why I just cleaned that one up. Hot as hell for just so much. So we've went right back to the Florida. You know how it goes. It's like summer or slight summer. But I will admit, like a night like tonight where it's actually legitimately nice and there was a cool breeze, as you heard. this is one of those moments where I'm like, okay, I guess Florida's not so bad, you know. But now the other 360 some days of the year, it's hot as hell.
I used to live out in Melbourne, so I know how Florida can be.
Oh,
so.
you really know, yeah, and you know all about the humidity. Not that Philly's not humid, but you know.
I know about the humidity and the 40-year-old divorcees. Yes, I know very well.
Is that your Rolodex?
I used to work as an engineer, and our training facility was down there. So we would. There's only 2 bars in Melbourne. One's an Irish pub I can't remember, and another one's on the water called Lou's Blues. And if you went to Lou's Blues on the wrong night, and I was in my early 30s at the time, I would have like 40-something-year-old divorced women like literally gripping me up and dragging me on the dance floor, gripping me up, dragging me across the bar. It was brutal. Unless they were actually attractive, then it was a different story. But
yeah, then suddenly you're like, wait a minute, it sounds lovely.
So, Trevin, we only got a couple more minutes with you. As a person who doesn't watch anything on the indies other than, you know, what they see on the WWE network or in AEW or wherever, who is under the WWN umbrella that we should watch out for? Who's the person that like we're going to see on TV very soon?
So a lot of my guys have been stats that normally I give you names of, and I say that in a good way, right? One of our most recent guys to graduate is actually Austin Theory, who, obviously wouldn't have quite imagined him on as part of WrestleMania. I don't think that was the plan, given he was originally going to work our shows, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. We had quite a few guys that were going to be part of the concept we had called Accelerate, but a couple guys that and they work other areas too. That so some folks may be familiar, like the name I'm about to bring up, Kurt Stallion, right? So Stallion's a guy that a lot of folks would know in the Midwest, know in Texas and so forth. Kurt is just huge personality, but like I say a huge personality, but he's chill. He's almost like, and he and Matt Riddle are buddies. In fact, we got to have a thing where they tagged up, and they insisted on being announced as the Wild Stallions, by the way, which was a very hilarious moment. But that match where they tagged up actually was in Chicago. That is on the WWN Live YouTube, so you can actually see that match for free. But I bring up Kurt because he's got one of those, like, it's chill, but it comes out in such a loud, good way. And then when he is actually angry, you feel it. And, and he's one of those dudes. He's not huge by any means physically, but he can go with bigger dudes. Just a guy definitely to look out for. And, and the kind of guy that, again, I will be shocked if he's not snatched sooner than later. Similar but different, our current Evolve champion, Josh Briggs. Josh is only a couple years in the sport, and he's got the God-given gift of being whatever he is, 6'5", 6'6", or something like that. Bigger dude, but bottom line, again, he can go. He's physical. He's got great conditioning. He's starting to get in his own when it comes to really understanding who he is. So I'm really excited to see over the next couple of years, whether it's still with us or again already in the E or someplace similar. Where Josh goes. And his foil in the world right now is a guy named Anthony Green, who's another guy that a lot of folks who watch, say, Beyond Wrestling and other things more in the Northeast towards the Boston area. Green is one of those guys that, just in the last year and a half, I would say, another guy who's kind of found his inner asshole in his case, just doing really well for himself. And, a guy that, again, I think will be on people's radars. And, those three, as mentioned, they've in the case of Briggs and Green, some folks who are Beyond fans might have known them first there, Stallion, like the AEWs and a few other places. But, what they've done together under that Evolve umbrella, so to speak, and getting to work with guys that are veterans like the Eddie Kingstons we mentioned earlier, and guys that also get to periodically come in from, say, WWE. Those what I call only in Evolve matches. It's really cool stuff. And even AR Fox, who I talked about earlier, I'm telling you right now, if you're not familiar with Fox and some of the young guys under him, like Leon Ruff, who I mentioned earlier, that whole crew, they call them the Skulk. So, Skulk is a group of young foxes or something along those lines, hence the name. I know when they first tried to explain that to me, I was like, the what? How do you say that? Skunk? Oh, no, Skulk. Okay. but there's so many young guys, and Ruff was probably one of the first guys to kind of jump up from that Skulk umbrella, albeit maybe a year before him was Austin Theory, because AR Fox actually trained Austin Theory, by the way. But so you got guys like Ruff, but right now there's two other young guys, Adrian Lannis, Liam Gray, who are actually the FIP World Tag Champs right now. But they were in the position where they could have had a shot at the Evolve Tag Team Championship that meeting weekend. And then ultimately, there's an even younger dude in that crew called Bobby Flacco, who's been kicking butt in some of our other brands like American Combat Wrestling. That whole Fox crew, again, I think people are going to look at them and like everybody used to look at, some of the crew, like the New York guys and the number of guys that, like, say, the Homicides had his hands in back in the day. I think they're going to look at that crew and be like, whoa, those guys all were running buddies together, and that to me is exciting to see them. And then on the ladies' side, you may have seen Brandy Lauren before. She was actually on the network special. I had a hell of a match against Shotzi Blackheart, who's done quite well for herself since then, now in NXT. And, Brandy's another one who has, for sure, found her inner asshole. She's with Anthony Green, a young lady who not only knows how to make you hate her, but can go. And, and recently one of our actual ladies who's been a trainee coming through our own training center in WWN, named Avery Taylor, recently at the beginning of the calendar year, earned her opportunity to have an Evolve contract. And, and that's another young person I'm kind of excited to see, here's somebody who's, young and hungry and excited and, still like, isn't jaded. And I mean that in a really good way, albeit when she becomes jaded, she's probably gonna be twice as good. If that makes some sense. But that's on the ladies' side, there are two more to look for. And that's just going through the Evolve set of folks. There's other guys like the Troy Hollywoods and the Hunter Laws who've been killing it in FIP and ACW. And, it's really cool to be able to see that mix of, the guys that are just so hungry, just killing it, and then getting to work with guys from other areas here as they travel around the country and then come back that much better. So I know I just named like 20 people and was trying not to leave anybody out.
Down, if you can see, there's a timer in front of you. There's only like 4 minutes left.
I know we're running out of time. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to use that as my excuse. That's going to be my Lanny Poffo excuse. That's my excuse for not naming everybody.
Where can people reach you if they want to like follow you or anything like that?
So for sure, first and foremost, I would point at WWN Live, which stands for World Wrestling Network. So WWNlive.com. That's really our entry point. It's got all the social media, all that stuff. Okay. That said, that's also where that Club WWN subscription I talked about is. It's got links to our YouTube, where, as I mentioned, we've been putting up a bunch of free shows and matches. And similarly, we've been doing it on Facebook as well. Me personally as Trevin Adams. You can find me on both the Twitters and the Instagrams as _Trevin_Adams, because some other butthead beat me to Trevin Adams, I believe. That's why I probably did the underscore thing at the time, and I've kept it since, Awesome. So that's one easy way to find me, and, always happy to interact with folks.
Trevin, seriously, really appreciate this, man. Like, you can actually talk. You didn't sound like a jaded. With the exception of Jerry Lawler, most of the guys we get on here are very jaded.
Jerry's a really good dude, by the way. But yeah, keep going. I'm sorry.
No, just thank you, man. And this was, if you ever want to pop on or you have something you want to talk about and you want to hit us up, and we can set it up for you to come on and push something, or you want one of the guys to come on and talk, just let me know, man. You have my email.
Absolutely.
You have Rick's email.
Oh,
man?
Definitely. Seriously, for me too, obviously, right? I'm having a ball. And as soon as things are up and running again, first off, I'm happy to hook up and chat with you guys anytime. But, once we, like, no kidding, hey, there's shows to promote or things to promote, I'd love the sense of the talent, because I think, again, they'll appreciate the fact that you guys have a really, good perspective when it comes to things, and, would actually probably be not only entertaining to talk to you, but have insightful things to ask.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, dude. I really appreciate this.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you both, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night. Trevin Adams. Thanks, you.
Trevin Adams, everybody. So that was our interview with Trevin Adams.
Well,
it was a great interview. I really enjoyed it from what I remember of it. And hopefully everybody enjoyed it as well.
I thought Trevin did a great job. He was very entertaining. I really appreciate him for popping on. And I appreciate Rick muscling through 8 vodka and Red Bulls.
Yeah, I didn't stop either, did I? I just kept drinking through the whole thing.
Yeah, I thought you would stop, and the next thing I know, I saw you making a drink in the middle of the actual interview.
So I have to, once I start drinking, I have to keep drinking until I go to sleep, because if I don't, I get these like really massive migraine headaches, like they're really, really horrible. So it was either keep drinking or deal with just being in pain for the whole interview.
Luckily, I didn't bleed all through that interview. Jeez.
That sounds like an alcohol problem.
I think it's just a Northeast Philly kid thing. Because
I gotta drink till I'm asleep, or else I don't like it anymore.
I have to go to bed immediately after drinking, or I usually end up sobering up and being hungover.
Doesn't red wine give you a headache? Yeah, eventually.
I guess we should do Trevin Adams if you want to check him out. His Twitter's @Trevin_Adams on Twitter. And I guess
check out his dogs on Instagram.
Yeah, you can check out his dogs, which his Instagram is pretty much I think it's the same thing, _Trevin_Adams.
Well, we can put it in the description of the episode, Probs, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we're saying goodbye.
Well, special little thank you to Trevin for doing the episode. Sorry I couldn't be a part of it, and appreciate your time and your effort, and I really hope that this is the beginning of a cool resource for us and for you.
Yeah, man, he was the one actually offered, which was really cool. So hopefully we can start something with him and have some independent guys come on here and get their name out there to people.
I can't tell that we are going to be friends.
It's beginning of a beautiful relationship. So yeah, man. Anybody want to throw anything out there before we wrap up the show?
Shout out to the family, friends, loved ones of Howard Finkel. Rest in peace,
Howard.
Howard Finkel. I know that's a big thing, and we'll do a full episode and we'll talk more about it later, like the next week or whatever next week's episode is going to be when we record that. But really important to our to all of our childhoods, hearing that name. And Nick Burke used to have he hassled Fink at a show to do his voicemail, his outgoing voicemail message. So he was like, "Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Burke's voicemail."
Nice. Burke's good with stuff like that.
I think it was probably at Eric Gargiulo's wedding or something.
All right, well, I have nothing to plug. I'm going to crawl back in my pillow fort.
Yeah, check out, if you're listening to the podcast, thank you very much for listening. If you want to check out the video of it, it's going to be up on YouTube, tinyurl.com/YouTube, Rick Connor, CONNOR. You can check out all the past episodes of Rassle Rocks that we have recorded. They're up there, as well as a whole bunch of pro wrestling. So check it on out.
Yeah, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification if we go live. Because sometimes we do that, and it's a lot of fun for all of us. And you guys too, hopefully.
And drop a like on it as well. This way we know what you like, what you don't like, and it helps us out if we want to do something like this in the future. So if you like it, give it a like. That will about do it for this episode. We're going to come back this week with another episode. So stay tuned for the old school Rassle Rock that'll be happening this weekend. And until then, I'm Rick Connor.
Corey Castle.
Mark Halbacher.
I just realized I'm pointing, but you can't see who I'm pointing at because
it's a Brady Bunch.
I'm pointing at my
like a bunch of us around.
Hey, Mark, I'm looking at you.
Hey, Brady Bunch. Hey, Alice.
Join us again for another episode of Rassle Rock. This has been Jay Davis speaking.